Oh, good, okay. Oh, okay.
I loved it. It was great. I actually haven't gotten
We're good? Okay. We will come to order here. And let's see, this is a special meeting of a special joint meeting of the Encinitas City Council and the Commission for the Arts. And we will start with roll call.
I'll start with the Commission for the Arts. Commissioner Campbell?
Here.
Commissioner Fader?
Here.
Commissioner Hebert?
here.
Commissioner Kadakia? Here? No, here. Okay. Commissioner Reamer?
Here.
Vice Chair Marakovitz?
Here.
Chair Fox?
Here.
And then moving to City Council, Councilmember San Antonio?
Present.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Here.
Councilmember O'Hara?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Lyons?
Here.
And Mayor Ehlers.
Here.
All members of the City Council and all members of the Commission for the Arts are present with the exception of, sorry, I just lost my screen.
Okay, and since this is a joint meeting, are we ready with, do you have the microphone yet? Okay, we got it down there, excellent, because we want to be able to hear from you too. And with that, we'll start with staff.
Sorry, good afternoon. I'm thinking about Good Wednesday. So we have a presentation to begin with, to start off the meeting, and we will begin with that. And, I'm sorry, I'll pass that on. Arts Manager Colette Murphy and Julie Gilliam. And I'm going to forget names as I get scared at the mic. Thank you.
Good afternoon. All right, we are going to talk about the first year of operations of Pacific View Art Center, which was fiscal year 24-25. It opened to the public on August 13th, 2024. There were approximately 10 months of operations, and with the incrementally increased open hours, there were approximately 3 months at the full schedule of open hours with all 8 rooms available for instruction. It was activated with uses permitted by right without triggering any discretionary permits. It followed the Recreation Division model and considered the widest interpretation of arts and offered programs for a variety of ages and abilities. With the budget, pardon me, the Arts Division within the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Arts budget, the actual and budgeted amounts for expenses and revenue are shown here. And then on the next page, it shows, on the next page, okay, it shows the expenses, the operating expenses were not exclusive to arts within Parks, Rec, and Arts. And there was an additional approximately $186,213 that was run through other department budgets. The program revenue was approximately $175,276. And on here, you can see there's a little peek into the following year just to give a preview of where things were going as we crossed into July. As I mentioned, the open hours were incremental. When it first opened, it was 25 hours a week, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., and only 6 of the 8 rooms were operational. Then, as we came into the new year in 2025, that increased to 35 hours as the hours expanded to be open until 5 o'clock, and we had some use of rooms 5 and 6. Then on March 27th, Thursday nights were open until 7 o'clock, and at that point, we had all 8 rooms operational. And during school break camps, spring, and then 2 weeks of summer, we had hours on Mondays and Fridays, and then an extra hour on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to accommodate those programs. The classrooms were designed for programs to be as specialized and as general as we could. So rooms 1 and 2 were primarily visual art, messy visual art. They have sinks. Rooms 3 and 4 for performing and dance, they have a specialized floor. Rooms 5 and 6, broadcast, music, multimedia, very specialized rooms. And then 7 and 8 are a little bit more general use. Room 7 does not have a sink. Room 8 has a sink in the hallway adjacent to the room. So they are used for things like literary, fiber, and visual arts. The pie chart shows a percentage of hours used for each room, which illustrates how popular our visual arts programs are. And then 5 and 6 I like to point out because they were not available for a lot of hours, but really are holding their own in terms of percentage, which shows how popular those programs are. The programs offered, this chart just gives a little layout showing between contractor staff and where they were offered. There were 509 programs offered and 222 that were held. And this chart shows that if a program started in a month, it's counted in that month. So for example, we have some classes that have 6 sessions. So if it started in August, it's counted in August, even though some of those sessions were held in September.
And just adding here, there's a lot of classes being tried. This is a lot of, looks like, spaghetti on the wall to see what will work and won't work. Quoting Denzel Washington, if you don't fail, you're not trying. So we're trying everything we can to meet the need.
This is an extension of that last chart, which showed the individual programs. So again, we had programs that had multiple session dates. So this reflects that. So if we had 4 sessions, a class met 4 times in August, it's counted 4 times in this chart, whereas it was only counted once in the prior one. So there were 805 individual classes held. Some statistical information about the programs. The majority were classes and workshops, with just 3% as the youth camps. Among the age groups, 31% were youth courses and 69% were adult courses. And instructor type, 44% were offered by staff-led instructors and 56% by contractor-led, by the contract instructors. For program enrollees, there were 1,589, and this chart shows when the program was, so when it started. So each enrollee is counted in that month. Again, if the program started in August but continued in September, that enrollee is counted in August only. In this chart, this counts total attendance, which is if that class has 6 sessions, 4 of them are in August, 4 got counted in August, and the other 2 got counted in September. There was a total of 6,135 total attendance. Among the participants, 75% are Encinitas residents and 25% non-residents. With the age groups, approximately 54% were older adults 50 plus, 18% 18 to 49-year-old adults, 25% youth ages 5 to 17, and 3% are tots ages 0 to 4. We sought quite a bit of feedback from the public. In addition to this, which I'll talk about in a second, we had open-ended, tell us what you want at Pacific View. Tell us how you feel about Pacific View, and that's included in the first-year report. These charts highlight feedback we were seeking from program participants. So we have it set up to send to everyone who takes a class and ask them to tell us how they feel about the instructor's ability to teach, class workshop fees, the registration process, and customer service. Then, of course, we also asked our youth campers, and they gave us a lot of great feedback, both in words and in pictures. And these are just some highlights: gallons of fun, so awesomely fun, fantastic, spectacular, amazing, and my all-time favorite, the best days of my life. So the first year was not without challenges and limitations that included things like an opening date that was delayed and uncertain, facility insufficiencies, limited instructor availability, instructor recruitment and retention issues. As we went into year 2, we started addressing some of the things that were happening, and one of those was to adjust hours. We did not add hours, but hours were taken from weekends where they were underutilized and put in places that we heard from the public they wanted more of. They wanted more evening, so those were shifted to make Tuesdays and Wednesdays also open until 7 o'clock. And then we've had a list of plans for expansion. Some of these things are in process and others are goals. So that is to use grant-funded scholarships, to establish relationships with organizations and provide relevant arts programming, to add group-based enrollment programs, add lower-priced and pay-what-you-can programs, collaborate with our recreation division to provide arts programming with transportation for older adults, and establish classes and workshops led by artists who are exhibiting in city visual and public art programs, establish pre-apprenticeship training programs, and to expand marketing initiatives. And with that, we are looking forward to your questions and discussion.
Do we have any questions of clarification? If not, we'll go to, is that a
Sorry.
yes or no? No?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay.
Sorry for
Deputy Mayor
delaying.
Lyons.
I just wanted to get some clarification. I asked this also in the staff briefing. So Dave, maybe you're the person I'm directing this to. On page 14 of the staff report, you have listed the expenses. And thank you for doing this. I think actually this is kind of a hard thing for us to do, to kind of pretend we're a for-profit and to look at things as expenses and income, but I think you did a pretty good job. Would you be able to pull up page 14 so that I could point to it? Not of the presentation, but of the staff report. And there's some really good information in this staff report, so that's why I think it'd be of good value for us to have it up and be able to access it. Okay, that's a copy of it. All right. When we were talking during the staff briefing, we were talking about how the expenses were laid out this year, and there were some expenses that were captured as things like fixtures and furniture and computers and landscape. And so I asked Dave to clarify, and when they're able to pull that up, I just wanted to point out that it was clarified for me that some of those expenses were one-time expenses associated with ramping up and getting the facility up to. And maybe if you could point to that on that screen, I think you know what I'm talking about.
So if I could, for an example, I think we're talking about the same example. Landscaping was what we talked about yesterday. Yeah, but for that's almost an $80,000 account here. That's not out of Pacific View. That's out of the parks budget, and so that was a lot of planting and bringing in of native landscape. We budget, and I was off yesterday, and I apologize, it's about $21,000 with our contractor for Pacific View for that landscaping and also some outdoor cleaning maintenance. That's not one-time money back to the budget. That's out of the parks budget. So the money that was spent at Pacific View, if we don't have to spend to that level, will be used in other parks this year as part of our overall parks budget.
Okay, that brings up some other questions then, the way that you answered that. So right now, let's use landscaping as an example. I see $79,633 under the expense line for landscape. Are you saying that maybe like 21,000 of that is regular maintenance?
Correct. Our set-aside budget out of parks to pay for Pacific View is roughly $21,000.
So it's a budget, it's not an actual. You're saying it's a budget, meaning you budget that and you predict that's what it will be, the actual.
Yeah, and the parks budget is a budget for landscaping throughout our park system, and roughly this amount for each one for the parks. For Pacific View, it's $21,000.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So that's what you anticipate it would have been for maintenance. Then on the other side of that, are you saying that the rest of this number is probably the one-time landscape installation?
Correct.
Capital expense? Okay, Good. So I just want to illustrate that as an example that maybe there's some numbers here that are one-time expenses as we look to the future and we really want to, if we say we really want to hone this and fine-tune it, we might kind of track our numbers a little bit differently and really know what we're talking about in our spreadsheets. Whether it's a one-time capital expense, that's fine. It might not be an ongoing expense, so to keep that in mind. So I wanted to provide that clarification for folks. Thank you.
Yeah, and along the same lines, I think there's 30,000 in security system that I suspect was an upgrade for the security system because there's also 2,000 for monitoring. And by the way, I really appreciate seeing this as revenue and expenses. And so the conclusion I walked away was the revenue side is probably understated because of the delayed start or not everything coming online. And the expenses are probably somewhat overstated in this case. Because of the one-time startup. So that's a fair, yeah, look, I'm seeing nods, so I'm taking that as a fair. So anybody else? Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, the question there is then, what are the projections of what that is? Do we have those numbers? I mean, if we know that there's going to be that, we should have, that should be a part of
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not like we didn't know about this. Like that would be
Yeah.
kind of expected to be a part of this
Welcome to
conversation.
the world of accounting, right?
No, I
It's
get
kind-
that, but even estimates would do
Yeah.
fine, right? We estimated 500,000, got 138, like that.
Yeah.
There's something with an estimation that's, within the ballpark. We don't need exact numbers, but do we have that?
So I think we're saying for the second year, our budget is pretty in line. Our estimates, it's an ongoing year, is in line with not only what we spent last year, but we budgeted for. So we don't bring as much in because we don't have as much independent contractors. We don't bring in as much. We don't have as much independent contractors. So we don't spend as much on independent contractors. It's a 60-40 split with an independent contractor. So unless it comes in, it doesn't get spent. So, and then our budget is also not Pacific View specific. All of arts is one budget for us. And so for this report, we went in and deep dive, and we will continue to do that. But our budget for first year to second year is consistent. So the numbers that we started with in the presentation I got through, we're not too far off in the expectations for the second year. We will spend some money in different places than we did this year. Not having the need for as much in the way of furniture will, hopefully our
Yeah,
programs
Dave,
are more.
Real quick, I get what you're saying here. The fact of the matter is every business out the gates usually has a 2-3 year climb to get to a profitable. It's not expected to be profitable out the gates, and people got to get used to it and how it works, and just know that it's there kind of thing. So we get that. But what are those numbers that we just talked about? What are the from last year? Not second year, nothing else. Just the numbers coming off the top that are the one-time expense, and the
I'm going to spin to that page.
the revenue that has come in that it might be under budgeted on that's being shown. Do we have that? If not, just say no. It's not.
we
It's
do- we
just
do.
okay. And if you wouldn't mind for the viewing audience, if you have put it on the screen there or put it on the projector so we actually have the number to see.
So looking at last year's budget as a model of where in the ballpark we are, the actuals, 352,562 for staff, 152 of that was full-time, 200,000 part-time. Am I looking at, that's the budget or the amount?
This is the budget.
Okay, so that's the budgeted amount, 352 for staff, 367 for contracts and services, and then 50,000 for material and supplies. A lot of the extra 181,000 out of the other accounts is public works, providing the security system came through public works budget. And utilities and security will continue to come from public works. It's where the way the city's budget's set up. But so that number up there now is what was budgeted, 769,000 last year, and the actual expenditures were 551,947.
Correct. So can you just go to slide 3 or 4, whichever one? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 3
On the presentation.
on the presentations, yes. Start with 3, and then we'll go on to 4. And just a quick side note, if we can, from the future, put page numbers on, because it makes it easier to communicate this. So there's 3, and now let's slide down to 4. Right, so from those expenses, how much of that is one time?
Back to,
And then from those revenue,
Yeah.
how much of that is not caught up with the accounting or whatever, is delayed in this case? Sure, yeah. Correct. Yeah, give us an estimate. So I guess at this point, it doesn't sound like we have the exact answer, so instead of going around it, let's just come back to it. We'll go through the comments, and then we'll come back to it. So I just want to know what that is, because you're showing this. That's what we're kind of, so if there was kind of a window that we're trying to look at, it'd be great to have that little, different color or whatever to kind of show that next year won't have the 737 because we, 200,000, whatever, 100,000, just a ballpark number would be sufficient.
so from 181 in revenue, with open for camp, I mean, this is getting to be best estimate.
Yep.
With a full summer of camps, with programs continuing to grow, I'm comfortable with that number being 280, another 100,000 on that in revenue coming in. Expenses, in our budgeting, there's not a whole lot of one-time expenses. Like I said, the budget for landscaping is out of a different part of the budget. Furniture was 9,000. There'll be some furniture, but not nearly as much. Program supplies are always going, as you do an art program, you're always replacing the art supplies as you go. So when you're looking at one-time expenses, we're under 50,000 in one-time expenses is a safe.
Yeah, so I'm going to take a shot in the dark. The budget that you're showing, the expenses on page 3, the 769.50 or 562, is probably minus the 737.160. Go up one slide. That top right number, top right, the 769.562. Slide down to the next slide. Minus the 737.160 is probably the one-time expenses. What I'm thinking.
You're
probably plus or minus the 50,000.
You're in a good place. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. So this is probably closer to what we'll see yearly. Got it. Thank you.
So I wanted to check, any questions of clarification?
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm on here.
okay.
I was looking for the payment of the bond, or whatever we call it, for their home, their mortgage. I don't see that listed on here. I know annually we pay on this building, and that is part of, in my opinion, the fixed cost, because in the end, it all comes from the same pot. Where is that listed on here?
So, excuse me. Don't have that on here. We don't have that as part of our budget. It's not part of our back and forth. I hear what you're saying, but out of what comes in revenue isn't paying out something like that. So when we have that in the city, I don't have it though.
So can the city manager provide that? And it would be possible for future reports on this to provide that? Because in the end, it costs what it costs, regardless of how many pots the money comes out of. And I see multiple on here already.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Because
so,
that would put this number 737 over $1 million, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean,
So we paid 300.
Whatever the mortgage is.
whatever the bond was, the purchase.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the cost is the bond plus
Yeah.
the 737.
yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's my
Councilmember San Antonio.
I guess I just had, I know this isn't, it's not necessarily supposed to be a for-profit, but is this ever going to be close? Are we just going to continue to lose money on this?
So I've gotten a staff answer, if I could go back, if you're okay with go back.
Yeah, definitely.
That the principal amount on the bond was $345,000. Councilmember O'Hara, I think you were in that ballpark. Following the recreation model for programming of Pacific View, programs are not set up to recover 100% of cost of the facility.
It's going to be always that far apart, but it seems like it's quite a bit.
So classes in Pacific View recovered 33%. That's in line with what was done at the community center this year also. So just the model that we've followed for programming is similar to that. Outside programming, recreation on the beach, where half-day classes and the summer excitement are at higher rate, somewhere in the 50 to 60% range, but typically our classes are 25 to 35%.
Okay, good. And Deputy Mayor Lyons.
Yeah, I just wanted to call everyone's attention to page 2 of the staff report, and just provide a little bit of history on what the staff was given as your objective this first year. And it's in the second paragraph of page 2. It said the City Council's goal was to activate the site without triggering discretionary permits. So essentially, that was what your first year goal was. We didn't state that there was to be a monetary or profit goal. That's never been stated from City Council before. So I think that's frankly, a really important reason why we're meeting today, to clarify what City Council's goals are for Pacific View, to allow the Arts Commission then to use those goals as they develop thoughts and brainstorm and then bring back to the City Council ways to achieve those goals. So I hope that provides a framework of why we're here and what city staff was told for the first year.
Okay, thank you. And I think the city manager has the answer to the previous question.
So you had asked what the debt payment was. The debt payment for Pacific View is $560K a year.
Okay, great. And now Chair Fox.
Hi, thanks. Is that working?
Yep.
There we go. I was actually going to voice a lot of what Joy just shared, so that was helpful. And also just in that comparison with being asked to work under the model of the community center, the fact that the classes are already getting a comparable percent of return is actually pretty impressive. And I'm just wondering if there's data about the first years of the community center.
That's a good question.
There's not first year to first year comparisons.
Any other input from, any questions of clarification from any other commissioners? Yeah.
When you open the center, you put in forecasts for the revenue for 2025. Has there been an updated forecast created for the next calendar year?
The budget for make sure I got it right. But so budget year for 25-26, the amount that went in was 500,000, still based on what a full-time, full facility, independent contractor. The budget for 26-27, that's the process we'll go through in February and March.
Yeah. And I'm going to hop in and see if I can clarify on this, because I think we're crossing terms. Budget is what the departmental budget is, and correct me if I'm wrong here. I think of this, what the question that most of us were coming across with, a P&L, a classic P&L statement like I would for an operation or a program at work. A P&L would include the full cost. Now, I understand it's not going to recover full, but I really appreciate it. I think you did a yeoman's job at pulling together what essentially is a P&L. Didn't have the mortgage in there. That's fine. You know, it's the first time, right? So when you say we budgeted 500,000 and some odd, the truth is the expenses are still going to be 7, 8. Well, if I throw in the mortgage, it's going to be 1.2 million. I like the way you looked at it from pulling in everything, really, as much as you could think of in a P&L, because that's really what the project is costing us, the program is costing us, and that's how we ought to look at it year after year. So I think when we get into deliberation, we'll talk more about projections and how we get a projected P&L. You got to do a projected budget, but a projected P&L is really, I think, where the question is coming from up here. So just so kind of clarify terms.
That's what I was looking for.
Okay. Anybody else?
Hi, thank you. Is that coming through? Thank you very much for meeting with us. Deputy Mayor
Did it-
mentioned.
Did it turn off? Does it have a green light? Uh-oh.
Sorry, needs a new battery.
That or you could come up to the podium, too. You can just, come up to the podium, we'll do it that way. We'll get you on tape, one way or another.
Sorry about that. So thank you for meeting with us. Deputy Mayor Lyons mentioned providing information for us to help us come up with ideas to increase revenue. And one thing I wondered, did the council intend to sort of come up with a percentage revenue increase, maybe year by year, so that we know, do we need a moonshot, or are we looking for, smaller things here and there that can put more of a dent in the revenues? That's just wondered if that was something that would, if we'd be provided some guidance for how much of a reach it needs to be.
Well, and I'm actually looking for your input on that, too. So it's not a one-way street. In other words, when I speak about that, it'll go both ways. Chair? Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm assuming right now is just clarifying questions about the
Right.
report, and then we have more to share.
Yep. Okay, excellent. And with that, how many public speakers?
We have 12.
12. Okay. Let's go with public.
So the first three speakers, Natalia Quintero, Rosemary Kimball, with time donation from Brenda Dizon, who is present, and then followed by Colleen Moore.
Okay.
The whole thing, there's a
Yeah,
button
I
on.
pushed it.
You can go, you have to hold it down,
Oh,
and the
there,
whole
it's
thing
going
will start
slowly.
dropping.
All right.
It's a little slow.
Fabulous. All right. My 3 minute starts. Hi, everyone. My name is Natalia Quintero. I am one of the fiber arts instructors at Pacific View Art Center. I am part of the original staff who put together tables, unboxed sewing machines, and built easels prior to the center opening in 2024. I have facilitated dozens of workshops and classes at Pacific View, as well as hosted art activations at the community center, city parks, and other city events. I am a passionate art educator who believes in the healing power of art. As an educator, I work hard to create a safe classroom where participants feel empowered to create. The objective of a class is for participants to learn a new skill and leave with a handmade object. My personal objective is to connect with others through these art practices. During my classes, we talk, laugh, and ultimately, we are building community. I strongly believe I am enriching the community of Encinitas through art. I am here today to ask you to continue to support Pacific View Art Center. At Pacific View, we offer human connection, a safe space where the community can gather, a hub where participants can learn and grow, and a center that embraces participants as they are. At Pacific View, we have the potential to support local artists, enrich neighborhood schools through art curriculum, increase accessibility to art for diverse populations, promote social connection, and build a stronger community. I know with a strategic plan and direction, we can make Pacific View a thriving art center. Thank you.
Rosemary Kimball. And Rosemary will be followed by Colleen Moore, Larry McDonald, and then Thomas Drosky.
Good afternoon. Is this working? Yep. Good afternoon, my esteemed city council and mayor and the rest of the staff. It's really good to be back here. I am Rosemary Kimball. My name is a little different. A Cardiff by the Sea native. And for those of you who don't know me, I am a contemporary Zen painter. You will see my name on 2 giant healing art paintings at the Encinitas Scripps Hospital lobby that were unveiled 30 years ago and are still there. The healing art paintings are 26 feet of ocean that I painted with a roofing mop and 24 feet of sunrise. But as you go all the way into the lobby, you have to look up. Sometimes the nurses don't do that. And it's in the Encinitas Scripps lobby that is facing the freeway, the old hospital. The arts are always a good news story, and I would think that it is beneficial to you to hear good news about your constituents. There is more to say about that, but I want to keep to my main point today, the Pacific View Arts Center. In the original plan to create an art center at Pacific View, it was never designed to be self-funding. With only 8 classrooms and a maximum of only 17 students allowed by the fire department, it would never be able to cover the cost of running the operation. And with the zoning restrictions on the property, it is clear that the original intent is still valid. Pacific View Elementary School was purchased by the City of Encinitas to be the art center for the City of Encinitas, as mandated by a public survey, owned, cared for, and managed through the Parks and Rec Department by the city for the benefit of its citizens. In the same manner as the public parks are treated for the enjoyment and enrichment of the citizens of the city. Not everyone uses them, but they are available for the citizens and the visitors of the City of Encinitas. I looked up how city art centers are funded in the United States. And Google or whoever, AI now, city art centers in the U.S. are funded through a mix of public and private sources, including federal, state, and local government grants and tax revenues, as well as private donations from individuals, foundations, and corporations. Local governments are often provide direct funding through their budgets and via specific revenue sources like hotel taxes. Private funding comes from individual patrons, large foundations, corporate giving, and community foundations. If we had a Friends of the Pacific View Art Center, they could help spread the word about the good that PVAC is doing for the community without putting extra pressure on the staff. Positive public relations would be part of the fundraising and would have an extra benefit to increase enrollment. A regular newsletter could not only cover any new classes, but also contain heartfelt stories of how the center contributes to the enrichment of the community. Fashion shows from the sewing classes, broadcasts from the media rooms, and art created at the center displayed in the galleries at City Hall, the library, and the community center could be featured in press releases. A series of healing art events, especially for seniors, could be part of the grant given to Encinitas by the Previs Foundation through Art Matters. Remember, the arts are always a good news story, and you love good news about your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Colleen Moore, followed by Larry McDonald, Thomas Jarsky, and then Deanne Sabeck.
Hello. Oh my gosh, it's loud. So, thanks for allowing me to speak up here. I'm just a resident of Leucadia, and actually I'm in Jim O'Hara's district. I am not an active part of the arts community, but I'm boots on the ground, and I was kind of wondering what I could contribute when I came today. But I heard a lot of talk about budget and finances, and so I wanted to offer what the Pacific View Art Center gives the community that is not financial, that is not able to be shown on a budget sheet. So that is what, sorry, I did not prepare for this, but because I wanted to speak from the heart. I have some notes written down. But what I was getting is my family and the families around us have very much benefited from the Pacific View Art Center. So let me just take a deep breath and start again here. I've been an active part of this community for many, many years. So I know people on the streets, I know my neighbors. It's to the point where such a cool experience to be able to walk down 101 and say hi to people you know. You see people you know all the time. And I've heard a lot of buzz about Pacific View Arts Center before it opened. Everyone was really excited, and since then, there's been nothing but rave reviews about it. People love it. Now, I understand that there aren't as many people signing up. It's the first year. I will say that I've known many people to have taken classes. And so let me refer to my notes just a little bit. Okay, so me personally, when I see the catalog for the Art Center, I feel like a kid opening a Christmas catalog, except I actually get enrichment instead of some toy that I get bored of. You know, I get to try out these things that I've been interested in for years, and I've never had the finances or the money to be able to investigate those interests. And that is a huge benefit to the public. Not to mention my child, who is with me, 9 years old. She can try out all these different art programs at an affordable rate. We don't belong to the YMCA. We honestly, we don't have the finances to pay their fees for camps. She can try out something for a week or a day, and that kind of, those kind of memories and that kind of confidence that's built in her during those classes, I mean, those are values that, again, you can't really express on a budget sheet. And it's really interesting for me to know at this point that Pacific View Arts Center was not opened to necessarily turn a profit. Okay, I'm going to finish up, but that went really fast.
Yeah, thank you.
So
I'm
really
sorry.
quickly, I just want to say.
I have to
know,
cut
but
you off, so.
It's changing the Encinitas.
I'm sorry.
vibe.
Thank you. I have to be fair to everybody.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for letting me speak up. My name's Larry McDonald, and I'm a resident of Solana Beach. And fortunately, one of my friends in Encinitas told me about Pacific View Arts Center, and I've taken some music courses there, and I've had excellent instructors, and the facility is gorgeous. We were there for Art Walk this year. There's so much opportunity with that facility. And when you guys look at it from a return on investment, I'm a retired banker. I've calculated lots of returns on investment. There's an intangible component that you really need to think about. You really need to think about, you know, the kids that are there that aren't on the streets. You know, you got to think about the intangibles that are benefiting this community. And I think with a little bit more outreach, a little bit more marketing, a little bit more fine tuning, I think this is going to go a long way. And you guys are lucky to have this facility here, and you've invested a lot with it, and that property was, run down and it needed improvements, and I'm really happy about it. And I think you guys look at this from the long-term perspective and not on a quarter-by-quarter, short-term view. And I think it's going to do fine. Thank you.
Hi, Thomas Jarosky, Leucadia resident. I wanted to speak first about arts. My partner and I are season ticket holders for San Diego Opera. We go down to the Civic Theater. We're actually going down to the Balboa Park to the Prado Junior Theater to see a niece perform. Up in Carlsbad, there's the Village Arts Center. We've seen some shows up there. In Solana Beach, there's the North Coast Rep. That, as we all know, is Solana Beach is part of Encinitas. Actually ran into somebody over the weekend who was surprised to hear that, so we may need some marketing on our community, our area, and what it is. But it's great to see more arts here in Encinitas. I take classes at Miracosta College. I've taken music classes, art class right now. I've made friends in the community that I wouldn't have if not for the people that I met at some of these classes. And the enrichment from taking the classes here is a great thing. So I have not yet taken classes at the Pacific View, but I have friends and family who have taken classes. I want to look into their calendar. Again, marketing may help grow this. That location is a beautiful location, and it seems to have a lot of potential. We're looking right now at costs versus revenue, but within the first year, it seems like there's a lot of potential for that to improve and be something that would be a shining star in Encinitas. And aside from the arts, I'm no accountant, and I know that there's no answers to the comments here, but I'll rhetorically ask the question, if we're going to look at the mortgage payments as an expense, then do we look at the increased value on the assessment of the property each year as revenue? It certainly has a value that is going to be retained in addition to the community value of just having the Art Center. So that's my commentary. I'll cede the rest of my time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Deanne Sabak, followed by Scott Campbell, Dina Morris, and then Carolyn Cope.
Hello, Deanne Sabek, resident public artist and former Arts Commission member for 6 years. I just have this presentation that I just happened on Instagram, and for me, it said it all much better than I could ever say it, so.
Artists are not entertainers, they are explorers of our collective interior. They venture into the turbulence of being so that we may recognize ourselves anew. They transform fragility to form, silence to sign, darkness into light. To support them is to share their courage, to believe that creation, like knowledge, requires risk, patience, and depth. It is to affirm that culture is not consumption, but communion, that beauty is not comfort, but transfiguration. Today, when almost everything can be owned, monetized, or consumed, culture remains among the few things that live only when offered. So let us invest not only money, but trust, attention, and love in those who create today.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, good afternoon, council and commission. First off, there's a little performance art here. The ghost is actually riding the swing down to Spooks Canyon. So here's a little overview of the site. I got to admit, I looked at the data and I changed my mind on how this place is. I think it's going to be successful, and I think it's worked. The numbers are much better than anybody would have thought. But this shows some of the existing uses. It shows the classes. It shows the fire station. So this is a really new picture, and it shows the museum too. So I'm going to talk about some of the uses. And these are things that we can do right now, and the ones in yellow are, I believe, are current uses. It's not really so much about making money for the thing. It's maybe we can augment the funds a little bit. I did a little math just sitting down here. I don't really know how many classes we've done in the past year, but I'm just saying with 8 classes and 8 hours a day, let's say that's 10,000 classes a year. And that's being generous with those numbers. If we're making $10 a class, that's $100,000. If we make $100 a class, that's $1 million. That covers all of our things. So somewhere is a sweet spot in there. Now, when I look at this list of permitted by right, there's things like auditorium. That's something we could do is related to art. There's a lot of things that are not related to art, like the sewage treatment plant. It might make money, but we're not going to do that. We're sticking to the art stuff. There's also temporary use permits. There's a minor use and major use. And the minor use, we can do outdoor sales. We could have a once a quarter, once a year. We could have an art sale or something. I know it wasn't talked about. We're starting to do it, but it is allowed. And with the minor use permit, I think the people up here could make that happen. It would add a little bit of thing. we could make pickleball money. You know, we know about boggy race. We can make some money with that. And the fish hatchery is really interesting. I don't know how this stuff is even alive on our permits, so that's a different topic. And the surf shop and surf manufacturing is interesting too. Now, major permits, those are more difficult, harder to do, but there's a larger list. You know, we could put bus stations in there, tow yard. You know, one thing that could be possible, it's not so bad, is maybe a nighttime parking lot. We've heard a lot about parking is tough, parking is horrible. Maybe we could charge some money, and that would get us towards those augmented fees. The open air theater, the part of the stadium, you know, these are things that we could do that cost a little money. Once again, I can't believe how much stuff as horses is still laying around. Maybe we should commit back to horses and flowers. And that's really what this is all about, is just to give you guys some ideas of possible other uses on top of it. The staff report shows that Encinitas is growing, and it looks like they have a plan, and I recommend staying with the course. Thank you.
Good afternoon, esteemed council members and honorable mayor and staff. My name is Dina Estrella Morris, and I am a resident of Encinitas. I have been a resident of San Diego County for almost 60 years. I am also a retired public servant from the county of San Diego. So I have grown programs from the ground up, from nothing, and I've also maintained programs. Thank you for the overview of the Pacific Arts Center for its first year. I appreciate that. I also know from experience that after 1 year, it's hard to really look at numbers and expect profit. It takes at least 5 to 7 years from my experience to see such a profit. And sometimes it's not that important when you think about it in the grand scale. Because what we look at as artists and as community members is the intrinsic value it gives to the citizens of this county and the residents who make its home. Not only the people residents, but the habitats, the native habitats that's being preserved on this land, the species that it supports. So the Pacific Arts Center represents not only an emotional residence by the community, but also intellectual stimulation and aesthetic pleasure. These are priceless to the people who live here. So I've taken classes here as well. And it is not the monetary cost that was valuable. It was a friendship that I established while I was taking the class, and it was also what I had learned. Now, I can make paper now. I didn't know how to before. And that is going to carry with me for years to come. I also look at our young people. As a performing pianist when I was 5, I am not orchestra level or anything, but having that young experience stays with me, as it will with our community and the young people who will be taking classes there. That will resonate for much longer. So rather than hyper-focus on the monetary value, I ask you to always consider the intrinsic value that it brings us, and that is priceless. Thank you.
Next is Carolyn Coe. Carolyn. And Carolyn will be followed by Molly Hintlian, Tracy Harriet, and then Tony Krantz.
Good afternoon, council, and all you guys over there. I'm Carolyn Cope. I'm president of the Encinitas Historical Society, and the schoolhouse has been sitting on that property through thick and thin, and it was really thin before you guys purchased it and brought it up to snuff. We've experienced all sorts of things on that property. We are so happy to have the Arts Center there. It's really interesting, the people that come to the Historical Society, the 1883 one-room schoolhouse, and then they go, well, what's this over here? What's going on? They literally come to us first. And of course, I'm a big advocate. I give them a brochure, tell them to go on and check it out. I go look at the classrooms. They're really great. back when it was EACEA, before the city actually got on board to make it the Art Center, we had deep pocket citizens that were ready to have one of the classrooms named after them to continue with what their passion was. So there's still that community commitment that just needs to be chased down and schmoozed. Councilman Schaefer, you nailed it. It's at least 3 years before you show any profit. The best part was this summer when all the children were there. You might be, even after-school programs, you might want to hit on that. Parents are always looking for places to put their children, and I know the children loved it because we could hear them laughing and having a great time. We even hosted some of the children drawing the flowers out in our flower bed. We're very happy about the fire station going in. I think y'all are doing a great job. Please give it some time. A little bit more community outreach, maybe. The only negative thing I've heard is that people would come over, they go, well, I'm not getting picked up for another hour because the class I signed up for, they didn't have enough people, so they canceled it. Well, you can still have a class with 2 people, because those 2 people will go out and maybe create 2 or 3 or 4 more people that would come to the class. I don't know what warrants a class being canceled because of the low sign-up rate, but I think that's something that should be addressed somewhere along the line. But thank you. Keep it going. We love it.
Good afternoon, Commission and Council. I think it's exciting that the facility is now open, and I think now's the time to look at the opportunities. I've been participating with the Arts Commission and listening as they've been deliberating and coming up with ideas for the Pacific View Arts Center. And I think the opportunity is to focus on engagement and less than bottom line, which a lot of people have talked about. I think there's an issue with limitation of permitted use. Scott did a great job pointing that out, but we can look at ways to overcome it. I think marketing is lacking, but anything that's a startup takes time to figure out what your footing is, but I think it's an opportunity that many people have talked about. It needs more attention. I've observed the programming. It's not consistent. That's not a criticism, it's just an observation and an opportunity to look at programming and maybe narrowcast it. Since we're limited to what we can do there and what the rooms are and the room size, we need to take that into account instead of trying to make it, oh, we're gonna get 100 people in a weekend. Look at tailoring the classroom and the programs for success, and keeping in mind all ages. I think we need more consistent programming categories, like in the fiber arts and in the sewing. I think we focus a lot on the performing arts and we're successful there. So I think when I was looking at the report, that's an opportunity for improvement. I think we should keep the costs accessible. When I first looked at some of the classes that were offered and were dropped, they were pretty high. And it was probably because of what the contractor needed to make and break. So these are things we've learned in the last 6 months to a year. But I would like to introduce the next speaker. She's someone I've taken classes from, and she'll highlight some of the possibilities and hopefully inspire what we can do. Thank you.
Is this the... Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Tracy Harriet, and this is how I roll. I'm here today to share some of the successes that we've had and hopefully inspire you to not only try some of the things that I have done, but potentially work together to collaborate to create more community. This is a picture of my classroom. My background is fashion school. I am the founder of ClickBits and a proud director at EduCreate, a nonprofit. I've worked in Canada, US, and Mexico. I've worked in retail. I have owned my own retail stores, and I've worked in prototyping and all sorts of different artistic mediums. These are all of the places that I visit on a regular basis across San Diego and county, including here in Encinitas. I am an approved vendor here in Encinitas. All of this was done in under 3 years. I specialize in technology and textile arts and the bridge between the two, celebrating all of the skills that are acquired to help students acquire skills that are great in their life skills, as well as creating skills that for new career paths. These are exciting successes from 2025. So 4,000 students across San Diego County learned to sew. 2,000 kids completed sewing projects they could wear. Kids learned to code. Kids learned all about graphic design. We implemented a lot of environmental friendly programs where there were donations from all over, as well as teaching children their environmental footprint. 2,000 kids learned about the sustainability and alternative plastics, and nonprofit EduCreate was awarded Creative Communities grant funding for a youth fashion program. Here is a picture of some happy students. I just love filling classrooms, not only for children, but also for adults and families. These are all of the people that I work with and the organizations that support me. I'm currently doing projects with every one of these organizations, including the County of San Diego Libraries, San Diego Public Library, San Diego Parks and Rec, Commissions for the Arts, which supported our grant program, United Way, and many school districts. This is a picture of our happy and full classrooms, which I think utilizing space is very important. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Tony Kranz, Encinitas. I love these early start meetings. They're much better for old guys like me. You know, I've been reflecting a lot on my service to the city, and by far top on the list of accomplishments is the acquisition of Pacific View School. I was struggling with the decision because the city had done an appraisal that said it was worth $3.3 million to $4 million, but we had done an appraisal based upon the current zoning, which is public, semi-public. The school district had a price that was based upon R15, so we were miles apart. So while struggling with this issue, I was praying on it. I was attending Mass on Ash Wednesday in 2014, and after Mass, I came across a friend of mine who happens to be a 30-year appraiser, and I said, Blaine, I'm having a real challenge here. We got some differences in appraisals, and it's a big difference, and I'm wondering how you think I should feel about these differences, and what is the value of Pacific View? And he wasted no time in declaring that Pacific View is priceless. And we've heard priceless from one speaker. There was another speaker who talked about the intrinsic value of Pacific View and how you can't put that on a profit and loss statement. And so it's critical that you stay focused on providing the community the opportunities that Pacific View now provides. And do that knowing that it's a cost center. And you can look at your budget and you can identify that, frankly, every department in this city is basically a cost center. It costs you money. In fact, you operate some departments at a known loss. You charge fees for development that don't cover the costs of actually processing their permits. So Pacific View should be treated no differently than any other city asset. If you're going to do a P&L for Pacific View, do a P&L for the community park. That was purchased for $18 million, and the construction of the park was $13 million. How much revenue does that park generate? We never asked that question because it's a tremendous community asset. So please treat Pacific View as an asset. I can vouch for the enjoyable opportunities that happen there. I've had my granddaughters enrolled in a couple classes. The sign-up system kind of sucks, but I'm getting used to it. And I would encourage maybe looking at a different way to sell tickets to Pacific View sessions, which is a wonderful opportunity to enjoy music. I've been to a couple of them. Getting tickets for them is very difficult to do. So again, I would encourage you to treat Pacific View as a community asset and not as a profit center.
That does conclude public speakers.
Okay. What we'll do is we'll go once through the council, then we'll go through the commissioners. So I'll start with Councilmember O'Hara.
Okay. So I'm going to start off with thanking Rosemary Kimball for coming today. I saw your painting, and we had a great talk about it when I did a tour of Scripps. And I've been curious ever since. So I'm really grateful to have you here tonight. And I think, they have it because we're a community of artists, right? As many different types of arts, whether it's art on paint, whether it's sculptures, whether it's surfers in the water. There's various ways that we do that, and they recognize that, and I think everybody up here does too. I'm not going to dive into all my points. I'm going to go a little bit later with that, but I think there is when you look at a property like Pacific View, and you look at what a council has to look at, and I think we do have to look at the dollars. We do have to be stewards of the finances here in the entire city, and we have to look at everything. And it does become important, the finances of a property, whether it's Pacific View or whether it's the park to wherever Tony went to, what his point was. It all counts, and we look at every penny of it. We have coming up tonight, I think we have to decide whether or not we want to spend about $500,000 on homelessness. Right? These are all very important decisions we have to look at, and we have to look at it regardless of what it is. And so I think it would be irresponsible of the council not to ask these questions about it, because we do have to look at all of the dollars. There is a reality of dollars in this city across the board. It's always on every election ballot. It's asked at every campaign. It is a reality, unfortunately. But I think tonight, and I'm going to save a lot of my comments for the moment as to how we do this. I think tonight you're going to find that council wants to see this go through. We want to support this, and we're not up here to look at why it's not making money. We're not up here to look at whether it can ever make money. I personally don't think it ever will. I don't think it needs to. But I do think we have to be responsible with your dollars and look at where the best return of investment is. And in my case, where is the best return of investment in art? And we have to look at it and say, down the road, we have to monitor, is this becoming the best way to do it? Or is there another way in the city that would give artists an even more expansive opportunity, or bring more people to the arts? If we don't look at that, we're not doing our job up here. And so it's not about Pacific View in that regard when you hear us ask those questions. It's really about, hey, are we doing our job to provide the artists in the city the maximum return on investment on the resources we're putting towards it? And so I think you're going to find tonight, especially from our commission who we've tasked to looking into helping the Pacific View come up with a strategy to work to get an improved return on investment, I guess. I think you're going to find the council also, we're all looking to make this the most valued asset we can in the best way possible. And that's really what we're here to do tonight. We're not here to talk about whether it should be judged after a year. We're saying, hey, let's look at the past, let's make the right adjustments, and let's move forward and look to better them. But I think we need all information. And so I wouldn't take the questions that we put up here as a reason to hit the panic button or a concern about the facility. It's more of a concern of, okay, how are we going to make this even better going forward? I've got a lot to say about it. I'm going to let the rest of the council talk. I'm going to rest for now.
Okay, Councilmember San Antonio.
Thank you. I value the arts. I am a graduate from the Art Institute of San Diego. My family, we have 9 sign shops in our family. Of those 9 sign shops, my uncles that started our sign shops, they all, I think 4 of them were fine artists as well. So to this day, 2 of my uncles still paint into their 80s, and they sell. They're all in Hawaii, and they sell their paintings. I paint as well. I have not had time to paint as of late, but I do value it. And I think to what Councilmember O'Hara said, as well as Deputy Mayor Lyons, I definitely think when we ask questions about numbers, I think it's just because we have to think about those numbers. It's just a part of what we do up here. But not to say that we don't value artists, because I am definitely on your side. I definitely look forward to the arts. I look at art in maybe a different way just because I went to art school. I don't know. But I felt like maybe to what Councilmember O'Hara said is I don't want you to feel like we're to hit that panic button, because that's not what I'm up here for. I want to support, and I look forward to support. And I think those questions about the numbers is just something that always seems to come up when budget comes up, when we have to pay for something big or something important comes up. It's always about the numbers for us. That's the first initial question. I would like a fire station in Olivenhain, and the first thing that we talked about were the numbers and the possibility of that. So please know that I'm in support of Pacific View, and I'm in support of the intrinsic value of art in our community. I know we have murals everywhere. I mean, we are a community of artists. I appreciate the Arts Commission. I appreciate what we as artists do here in Encinitas. So I'll yield.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Lyons.
Oh, well, thank you, Councilmember San Antonio. I didn't know that about you. I'm glad to learn about your family and your deep roots in art. So I am going to be brief. As Councilmember O'Hara was also stating, he was probably not going to say all his points. And the reason I want to be brief in just a few things is I do want to I want to leave enough time to hear from the Commission on the Arts. What I think the most important thing to do today is to capture where we're at and where we would like to go. I'm happy that we've shown these numbers and that we've kind of done the hard work, the homework to provide these numbers and to talk about them today. But I want us to have this next year, this next 2 years, still as learning years, and to look at this public asset as a public benefit. And we can keep an eye out, too, for where the other opportunities are. It's kind of like, where are we at now, but where could we go 3 to 5 years from now with this facility once we kind of get some things sorted out? So for this next couple years, what I would like to do is learn from all of our experiences. I love the idea of checking out Friends of Pacific View. And the reason I say that is we do have Friends of other parks, and it's not an uncommon thing for a city to do. And it also provides the opportunity to look at a little bit different structure that can help us to better market and better communicate. And I don't want to say we've been bad at that, but honestly, I think that another entity whose primary focus is on the marketing and the communication would notch it up so that we could get the word out. And I think we also need to approach this next couple years from the perspective of saying yes, not saying no. I think we've been a little shackled by the fact that we are operating within the strict structure of the permits that are in place. And I'd like us to say yes to trying to figure out what are the opportunities as far as our programs on this property. And then what does that mean as far as permits, whether it's a major use permit, and figuring out what the pathway to yes is. Honestly, I've heard a lot from the community that they've wanted to do things on the property, but the answer was no. There wasn't enough room in the classroom. or there wasn't the right, they didn't offer the right structure that could be allowed under the permitting. And I'm not a person who likes to hear no, so I can imagine there's a lot of people out there who also don't like to hear no. And realistically, I know there will be some no's, but let's try to figure out how to get to yes and how to get to the programs that we know that we're learning that the people are most interested in. I think we are weak in our goals and objectives and our vision for this property. I would like us to talk at our next time when we come back together about what is our vision? What are we aiming for with this property? It's a public benefit. It's an asset to the community. The community obviously loves it and embraces it. This is awesome. We're going to start getting the word out better. We're going to maybe do a Friends of Pacific View. We're going to look at permits and maybe overcome them. But what do we want? And we can never measure how well we do at anything unless we know what we're aiming for. So establishing a vision and a goal, I think, is fundamental before we can even put the right structure in place for where we're going. And so I think the Arts Commission can help us with that. I'd like you to come back with that. That's my comment to you to take away. I'm thinking big picture. I would love this Pacific View property to be a creative hub, a place that creativity grows, where it inspires people, where art teachers teach art teachers. You know, I think it's great that we have the kids taking classes, and I love the fact that camp was like oversubscribed. This is all just wonderful. But I just see there's such potential and there's such opportunity. So and I'll just conclude by saying I would like the Commission on the Arts to come back and tell us the range of possible options. And I think that would be fair. I know there's other examples of publicly owned property that have art programs and work as art hubs. I've also been following the Commission's work on this, and so I anticipate you'll be able to tell us what's possible, what's the range of possibilities. Thank you.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor. I couldn't agree more with the rest of the council. This couldn't be more left brain, right brain, right? We're talking about our right brain wants to be artistic and just flow as it goes. However, our left brain, which is the questions prior to, is making sure that we're holding ourselves accountable to what our costs actually are. And if we're lying to ourselves, we'll always be further in that deficit, and this doesn't succeed. And that's the reason for the questions. And if we want this to actually succeed, we have to be smart about it. And I think I couldn't thank Scott, actually all the speakers, but I couldn't thank Scott enough for coming up here and actually showing what our permits actually show, what we can do, and us being more creative and actually using the space as a whole. Think of the LA Forum when it first started. It was the first place to actually use the actual place for basketball for anything other than basketball on the days that basketball wasn't being used. So we like farmers markets around here. We like art shows. We like more community nights out, more stuff that's going on. I think sometimes it takes money to make money. We got to give away shirts to sell shirts eventually, right? So if we want to get people through there, then maybe more events that are planned to come through there this next year, if it's going to cost us this much, and get people coming through there to see that it's just even an option. And without that, we're not going to get people's interest and we're not going to peak it. So really the questions are from the, if you will, the left brain side, the factual stuff, and actually knowing the exact numbers. So we know what it is costing us. That's not a bad thing to know. However, like we talked about some of the priceless values of the confidence, our community. I think this community has, I've said this, city manager knows this, I've asked every single department head, what are the top 3 cities in California? Because I think that we come from one of the best communities and we should be in the top 3 very easily, just by the fact that where we live. So this would be no different. And it is kind of a crown jewel to the center of our city. It's right there. I used to play basketball there. I went to Ocean Hole, but that was still an elementary school when I was a kid. And so I like the fact that it's not going to get torn down and more homes and more stuff. But we have to be more creative in getting this place to run its max capacity. And so I think this next year, kind of going to what Joy said, getting more people through there. Even, I'm not gonna say free, but maybe free for getting the elementary schools over there, getting a lot of homeschools. Any of the rainy day schedule for sports programs that can use the place, something of the nature where we can actually start to use this thing more effectively to show, and this becomes more of a staple for our community and not a weight. It's not becomes a place that we go to. We just moved the Leucadia Farmers Market over to Oak Crest. This might have been a perfect spot for it actually, now that I'm thinking about it. This could have been a perfect spot to get more people through there. It's on a Sunday, so it just jogs people's minds, and it's not in people's habit pattern right now because it was out of commission for 2 decades. So it's up to us to want to do and practice the right side of our brain, but we need to use the left side of our brain to effectively allow the right side to enjoy the downtime and the creative side of what arts can bring. So that's where I sit with it, and I'm all about pushing this forward, but let's not lie to ourselves about the numbers. Let's be honest, and let's make sure that we see this thing progress over there, even if it has to dip. Again, like any startup company, even though we're not running as a company, it does take 2 to 3 years to get it off the ground. So that's all I got.
Okay, I'll hop in here. I agree with almost everything set up here. I don't think I've heard anything I haven't agreed with. I want to step back, and it really wasn't a first full year anyways, right? It was really 2 rooms or only 3 months. The summer, he didn't even have a full summer because you look at that, this fiscal year, July report was huge. And so I think, obviously, we keep moving forward. The question I asked myself when I read this report, and by the way, I really appreciate the report because it gave me metrics, it gave me stuff, data that I could look at to say, where's this going? Is it on a trajectory I would expect? And it is. It's right where I'd hoped it would be, not even behind. I would say after the first partial year and very partial year of operation, it's done quite well. And I love the fact that by going through and analyzing the feedback from all the patrons, that you've come back with suggestions on hours of operation, occupancy, dance floor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's exactly how you would run an operation, and doing the very process of tracking our expenses, tracking our customer experience will help us make this better, and it'll be more self-sufficient. Not that it ever has to be fully self-sufficient, but we certainly want to know how much money we need to invest in it or pay into it in order to budget accordingly, because we do have to do budgets, as was already mentioned. I would say when we talked earlier about the $500,000 per year for the land and the building, we've got other missions that we're accomplishing with that same money. Number one, we're maintaining a historic schoolhouse. And I'll tell you, it looks the best it's probably ever been. It probably looks better than when it was brand new. So it is really shining, in my opinion. Number two, we took advantage of that lot and we put the temporary fire station. We're saving a significant amount. At least 10% of that $500,000 is going to would have gone to land rent, if not more, if we had to rent another location. The museum, the schoolhouse, the historic schoolhouse, we would have had to have done something with that. There's another expense that is offsetting. So it's really not all the $500,000, but I'm not too worried about those details, other than I like the fact we looked at them, we've talked about them, and it becomes how I look at how I budget in the future. Let's see. So what I would recommend is we go another year and have a similar report, and probably go another 2 and maybe even 3 years, because I think this is going to set up how we keep making the operation better and better. And I liked Deputy Mayor Lyons' challenge to the Arts Commission. Come back and tell us what we could do, and then I would, where your vision is going, and to maybe less the Arts Department and more the Planning Department. I'd like to know a couple of facts. What drives the 17 occupancy is 17? That, as a school, I can't ever imagine that. Colette, can you respond to that? Oh, excellent.
I asked about this when we opened, as we were getting ready to open, to understand what would it take for us to go between building and assembly. And it comes down to restroom fixtures and parking spaces.
Okay, and right now, I noticed it was in the report, your report, it said it's classified as Business Group B, which I've never heard of, but, and it must have been different when it was classified as a school and had a much higher occupancy allowed. So to the additional challenge I would add to this is, let's work with planning and figure out how we can get that occupancy limit lifted, and maybe it means in the future we have to add additional bathrooms. We'll figure it out. Let's get the cost. It's yet another trade-off.
Right, that was one of the things that, in order to add those fixtures, added the square footage that then triggered the CDP.
Yeah, And now that we're, and it may be years before we get those in, but it's going to be an operational limit as we build clientele. Dave, go ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh.
I didn't mean to cut you off. If I could after you, though.
Okay. And so let's see. And I totally agree with that. This is about the experiences, the intrinsic value. I look at and compare this to how the senior center operates. I don't look to make a profit on the senior center. The community center, same thing, very similar classes. This is part of the services we provide. But I do like to keep an eye on cost per pupil, cost per classroom, cost per whatever, so that we know how much money we're having to put into it, and we can plan for the future based on metrics. So with that, I will yield, and we will go to, who wants to go? We'll start down on the far.
Dave had some comments.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dave. Yeah, I'm skipping right over you already.
Are you okay?
Thank you.
Are you okay? Okay, thank you. I just want to take the opportunity. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the words. These two only represent a small part of the team. Their staffs that were diving in the numbers and trying to pull everything we could think would want to be part of that report. And I appreciate it, and I didn't want to leave that out. I do want to share, though, too, and I think we have a great commission of the arts with creative, and no better group to help us drag out from the public what they want to see at the center and how do we go forward and bring people to it. You also have a team led by the director that is all for creative answers, willing to try pretty much anything to give it a shot and see it'll go. I wanted to share one quick story, and I'll stay within my 3 minutes if that's okay. We ran into a challenge that became an opportunity through the Arts Center a couple of months ago, in which we were receiving complaints about a group showing up and drumming on Sundays at the community park. And there are restrictions against musical instruments, drums specifically in parks, that say if it bothers the neighbors, it's not something that's allowed by code. It's not just the city code, it's actually in the county. I got to have that first phone call with that group, like, hey, please don't put us in a situation where we're calling the sheriffs on someone coming to play the drums. And like, how do we get this? And so they worked out to like, okay, there's some other places they were going to go, but they were ready to challenge it. And in discussions with all the arts teams and looking at what other places that go, and actually reaching out to ICA and having a conversation with them, there was an opportunity to open our doors and invite that drum group to come play at Pacific View on Sundays. We're open. So go away from the park. We don't need you to go another time. Come over to where we already are set up for that and come. So it's something we're working on. It's not a successful every Sunday thing, but we've seen them. We want to continue. And from that, we've grown to another drum class. Like, why not, if this is popular, let's get people to do it. And so that's just as an example, like, as ideas come in and as the ideas go to and come to the commission, we are definitely ready to take on new opportunities to continue to grow this center. I think we have a bright future. Thank you for the time. Let me throw that out there.
Okay, and now we'll go to the Arts Commission. You can come up here. It's probably the best. We'll hear you the best on this microphone.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Morakovitz. I haven't had the pleasure to meet all of you. Hello. It's nice to meet you. And I serve as the vice chair, and it's been a wonderful experience. I appreciate it. My day job is I'm a music educator, and I teach for Chula Vista Elementary School District. And I've been there for 10 years. I consider myself a young teacher because I've only been there for 10 years. But anyway, the reason why I work down there, because it's down south and I drive there every day, for several years, the arts education has been weak in this area. I'm talking about the public sector. And I know that has nothing to do with the city government, but that's what kind of prompted me to get involved in community arts, because I thought, well, okay, I do that during the day. What can I do here that I've been living here and I love to live here? Looking at the presentation that the city presented, I analyzed some things. For example, some of the pie charts showed that a lot of adults are patroning the classes, which is great. And I'm really excited about this drumming class. You got to tell me. During the day, I teach world drumming, so I want to sign up. So what I was going to say was, what was I just saying? Pardon me? Oh, the adults, thank you. Okay, so as somebody who's in education like all day long, every day, I teach 500 students a week. I noticed that on that pie chart, it's a small percent of youth. So I hope that the commission will be working on these things. We're working on generating ideas. Some things have been posted on the commission agenda as far as generating ideas. Some things, though, I have to say, you can't put a price tag on. Although at the end of the day, I appreciate getting a paycheck as an educator. There's some things you can't, and we always cringe as arts educators. We always cringe when it's like, well, we have other things to pay for, you know. It's like, oh, you know, it's very nerve-wracking. Makes us very nervous to hear that kind of thing. But I hope the commission will be working on that and generating some things. If you get a chance to Google Chula Vista Elementary School District, this was kind of my contribution to this idea because of what I've observed in my own employment. Chula Vista Elementary School District station experiences. And what I've noticed to be really cool with my employment is that they've worked in collaboration with the city of Chula Vista and the properties there to develop stations, and one of which is called Sound Station. And I see when I see like rooms 5 and 6, you know, the media arts and so forth, the media arts and the musical. I have to disagree. I think that performing arts is not as strong for the youth in this area. Visual arts, great, but not so much for musical arts, and that's why I go down south. So those are some things. I think that there's some opportunities to branch out to our local districts and partnerships, like something like what Chula Vista does with their stations. There's different kinds of stations, coastal, things that don't have anything to do with the arts, but I'm just saying, you can look that up. One other thing I might mention too, during my fall break, I went back to my hometown in Pennsylvania, very small town, and I was inspired by the little cultural hall, the cultural center. And the population of my town is about 1,600 people. And that's where I came from, and it's very quaint. They turned this old theater that has a triangular like facade on the front, like kind of like an old time. They converted that into a cultural arts center, and so I investigated that, like how does something like this operate in this tiny little area in this region in northeastern Pennsylvania. And they developed a 501c3. And, you know, as an arts educator, you don't get rich. That's what I've noticed. I'm not going to get rich. When I had my music studio many years ago, I filled my classes as much as I could, but I still was not going to get rich. I think what we have a wealthy area. We can tap into this community, such as developing, like I was saying, with the little cultural arts center, a legacy society where people can will their stocks and bonds and their 401ks and things like that. Investing is where you might get rich, you know. But anyway, I just wanted to just introduce myself and give some ideas, and we'll just continue to work on the commission together, and look forward to working with you and meeting the objectives. Thanks.
Thank you. Next? Yeah.
I don't think I properly introduced myself last time. I'm James A. Bear. I'm a commissioner, former chair. I come from more of a performing arts background as an arts journalist and trying to be a playwright now. I'll be brief. I wanted to touch upon something again that Deputy Mayor Lyons said about kind of working within the strictures of the property. You know, it's such a beautiful it's such a beautiful place to be. And at the same time, I think there's a little bit of, I think when people think of an arts center, they think, well, there might be performance there too, rather than, and the instruction is fantastic, but and so I'm going to go slightly off the reservation for a second to tout my passion topic, which is for more than 30 years, there has been an opportunity to build a beautiful theater for Encinitas that the city deserves at the Encinitas Town Center, which, tying it back in with Pacific View, could potentially be a revenue generator for the arts in general. Carlsbad has done it. As a gentleman mentioned earlier, Solana Beach has done it. So anyway, and that would take some of the pressure off needing or trying to create performance when the zoning is so difficult to deal with at the Pacific View properties. So I'm sure we'll have lots of opportunity to talk about all that with you going forward, and I look forward to that. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Robin Fader. I'll keep my comments brief. First of all, I just wanted to say congratulations, staff. I know from doing a similar project in a different area, how difficult it is to do a startup project like this for the community. So hats off to staff. I also just wanted to mention Pacific View is very much part of the creative economy. And I appreciate that both the classes, the class fees are, structured in such a way to make them affordable for the community, and that also there is a goal of creating a living wage for the educators and the artists who provide the instruction. So I just want to keep that in mind as we move forward. And then I'll also just say that knowing the financials helps us to create a goal. And so I think that was a good thing for us to discuss, and it will help us, with the vision and the asks we need to make and the goals we need to set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Carla Romer, and I will also try to keep this brief. I also wanted to thank the city for the great report and congratulations on a wonderful first year. I'm excited to hear that we're kind of all on the same page about wanting a thriving arts center. And at some point, I'd love to hear, probably not tonight, but I'd love to hear from each of you what that means in your view. So what does a thriving center look like to you, and what outcomes would you most like to see? Each of you individually. I also wanted to mention that from my experience and from the research that I've done, it's very rare for any art education center or even museum to fully recover their expenses through their earned income alone. Art education programs are staff and space and material intensive, and fees need to be kept accessible. Affordable to stay accessible. So, nearly all art education organizations aren't able to cover their costs with fees alone. Typically, 50 to sometimes 80% of their budgets come from contributed revenue, like donations and grants and sponsorships. So given that, and knowing that it's generally more effective for nonprofits to lead fundraising efforts, I also wanted to just kind of touch on what a couple of people said about potentially looking into a nonprofit, a Friends of, to kind of help out and fill in some of the spaces that we have, the needs that we have. But other than that, thank you so much for the report and for the meeting. And I think this has offered us a lot of information. And we look forward to continuing to develop Pacific View into a thriving hub of creativity and community within Encinitas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, council members and mayor. My name is Vicki Campbell, and I'm really excited that this is an opportunity to expand on the offerings of Pacific View and re-explore what we're doing. I think from the beginning, I've been hearing no. Everything's a no. Everything's a no. So I was very happy to hear Joy say, I want to break apart the no's. I was happy to hear Luke talk about the couple years to ramp up. I think Jim has a good sense about trying to balance everything. Budget. Marco wants to bring the arts into this community or is interested in the arts. I think we have all of the things we really need. We really need to break down what is actually possible. How early in the morning we can go, how late at night we can go. Can we lease out the rooms? Can we rent them? Can we have, it says a place of assembly. Does that mean that we could have weddings there? Could there be food trucks? Could there be things that were put on by other groups? Or does it have to be city run? I think outdoor sales is a really interesting opportunity. Could have holiday craft sales. You could have farmers markets, like you guys mentioned. The Highway 101 is really hard to get through on the street fairs, so why wouldn't we just move it to Pacific View? Right? But I also hear that the biggest problem that we're facing in terms of ramping this up is the lack of instruction. And the instruction is burdened by the instructors having to pay hundreds of dollars to get their live scan, to get their insurance. Maybe the city could bundle that up and take on some sort of the aspect of making it really easy for instructors, because that's what we really need. We need the live blood of these instructors, and we're not making it easy for them to help us. And without those instructors, we're not going to get any more growth in this program. So to me, if we can do anything, I would exit interview all of the instructors, figure out what their problems are, and then cut those problems away. Just take them off. Take every one of them off. Get instructors in here that are going to help diversify the people that are enjoying the programs and expanding it. And I think that's it. Oh, other than naming opportunities and things like that, or galas. Is a gala an opportunity? Could we get food trucks out there and have, holiday parties there? So, thank you.
Thank you.
Remembering to do this time. I am so happy to be here. I'm so happy that everyone is here together talking about this stuff. It's just it's very refreshing to hear what everyone has to say and realize that essentially I think everyone in this room is very aligned. I don't see a difference between pragmatism and creativity. They are actually very intimately entwined. So I am happy that the meeting was called and congratulatory of staff, and putting the report together is not easy. You have to pull from a lot of different places, and also all of the work just to put it actually in play. Also inspiring to hear from the community, and already kind of amazing. I mean, it's like an easy thing to say, but really nice to hear that there's already this sense of connection to that place and that it's led to relationship building. My glasses broke, but I think they will still work. Let's see, going off here. I hope the city, it sounds like the city and the commission has an opportunity with this next recommendation to marry that pragmatism and creativity, whether through small targeted operational adjustments, which it sounds like that's mostly what's needed, or also larger policy or model shifts, or anything in between. So what I want to share is simply what the commission has done thus far and where we're headed. So we're currently in our discovery stage. We formed an ad hoc. It's myself, Commissioner Romer, and Vicki Campbell. Sorry. I always flip between first and last names during our commission meetings. So this discovery stage is been a fairly deep dive. We've been meeting with the department staff. We've been interviewing Pacific View staff and instructors. We have been researching other municipal arts center models, both operational and how they are funded. And even comparing room size. Like I have looked at Palo Alto, has a city-run, city-operated, owned facility, and their class sizes are comparable to Pacific View's. We've also been meeting with experienced members of the community who have backgrounds in making projects thrive. So the thing about this meeting is that it's very normal, right? It's just perfect to come together a year plus into a pretty major endeavor and assess and be financially responsible and also responsible to the potentiality of this real gem of a property. So alongside that, I think another commissioner referenced that we have also been collecting that list of ideas related to Pacific View operations, funding, and programming. Some of those ideas have been shared at attachments as recent agendas. I've kind of just been wanting to collect them because if it's a brainstorming thing, I kind of want to get them in one place and then hand them over and say, here's a list of ideas. That is different than a more formal recommendation that we will form for your consideration. What else? I'm just going to say, I think now that this report has been presented, our hope is just to move more into a developmental phase and actually really home in and prepare that recommendation. So looking forward to open lines of communication, and that's it. And thank you.
Very good. Let's see. Tell you what, I'll go to Councilmember Schaefer.
Oh, thank you. Just to finish it up, and we're getting close to the end here. I see a thriving community arts center as think of our parks, our beaches, a community place, right? Anything that where people can commune, and it's not just the art classes. I think that might be limiting us. I think Vicki made a great point that if we're going to get artists, I think we have a lot of artists in this town for all the different types, and if we're going to keep limiting it, we're going to keep looking at these numbers, which is required, like we've just mentioned, but we're going to keep wondering why we're not getting anywhere if we could get out of our own way, and that's more of I'm not sure if it's a direction to staff or to the city manager, the ways that we can get there, that we can remove that and get more artists, even pop-in artists. I know we have a lot of musicians that come through town, stuff of that nature, but again, not just the classroom, the whole space. I will say that the blacktop out there is not very, just in my own head, this is one person's opinion, it's not very artsy. So I'm not sure if there's a way to beautify it or make it a little bit more like you would come in here and it just feels like it's just, cheers, if you will. Everybody knows your name kind of thing, that kind of feeling. So I go by there routinely and see that space empty. I check the waves up there because you can see the long, of the coastline there. And it's routinely empty. I think the historic schoolhouse there, I'm not sure. I know that we're in the spot where it's kind of being used for some of the renovation stuff, but for people to come through and see that and be a part, that one little corner actually is what I feel like the whole place should look like and feel like. So again, the classrooms are, don't let our education end at the classroom. In this case, don't let our imagination of what art could be. If it's a performing arts stage out there, again, noise and some of those things, but a gala, all those types of things that we could do that would start to just bring people there. And I think that'll get the juices flowing for potential future. I'll leave it there.
Okay, Councilmember O'Hara.
Okay, so I'm just going to start with a quick question, because one of the things that has been mentioned multiple times up here is the permit restrictions and the usage. And I'm looking for correction or confirmation on this, because as I understand it, the main limiting factor, or one of the main limiting factors, isn't just the zoning, it's the bond itself, the bond limitations on that. Is that correct? Yeah, I don't know the restrictions on bonding.
No, the main restriction is the zoning on this. And so even though there were some other uses that were proposed, they would still require a conditional use permit, whether it be minor or major. And all of that deals with zoning. So one of the things that when EACEA was part of this conversation, they were looking, and they actually did go to Planning Commission at least once to change entitlements. So I definitely think one of the next steps, and we can definitely talk to planning, is we can outline how the city can do that, because that's what we would need to do, is to change the entitlements, to change the zoning, to allow additional uses. As some of the arts commissioners spoke, you can still do a special event there, because we do have a special event permitting process. So you can hold certain special events there that we could do. But the main thing is the city does need to go ahead and review those entitlements and look to change. And this way, whatever ideas the council comes up with, Commission for the Arts, the community, we would look to want to include those. So we go through and we don't violate any CEQA by piecemealing as well. We don't want to piecemeal.
So could we do a process like that, bring it back to the commission, where I love everyone thinking out of the box and talking about thinking out of the box for ideas to maximize the usage of this property. And then after that, after they had it, it would come to us, I assume, and then it would go out, we would talk it out, kick it around, and decide what we want to put out there, and then there would be a public comment time. We would have public comment before it comes back to us with final decision.
Yeah, so the direction from council for this meeting was to have this joint meeting and to discuss the annual report for Pacific View. Next was the direction from council on August 20th was to have the Commission for the Arts really digest the report, look at it. They have in their work plan to look at Pacific View, and then the idea would be to have the Commission for the Arts come back, have a great joint meeting with council. One of the things I would suggest is I think that it would be great if planning, whether it's the director or assistant director, attend a Commission for the Arts meeting and kind of walk them through the entitlement process. That's the really technical stuff, but I think that would be great, is to have planning come. And then this way, when the Commission for the Arts comes back with council, we can talk about the entitlements thing. And yeah, I definitely, between the Commission for the Arts and council, having some community workshops and input would be great before we dive into wanting to change the entitlements, because you want to go through that once if we can.
Correct. Perfect. That's what I was looking for. So I think Commission got that, and we're going to look at that. I don't want to ignore one thing, and I think it's really what actually kind of triggers everybody when they hear us talking about money on this. And I think it's impossible to ignore the elephant in the room, right? We have a property that someone said, it's worth $3. Someone said, well, we'll give you more, and we paid more for it. And that definitely, outside of this room, is a big factor in public conversation that we can't ignore. It's real, it's legitimate, it happens. And what happens in the discussion in here is that the importance of recognizing that is that that's going to give us only so much time before the public is in here. And it's not just those of us who support it, but it's people who are looking for us to do something with it. And so I think that's, not to put pressure on it, but I think it's an important piece of the conversation. Because if we do make sure, if it just gets brushed under the rug, we put our head in the sand, whatever, it will come back to us. With that, I think we've had a lot of really good ideas and a lot of progress tonight that I'm really excited about. I think the Friends of Pacific View, it's been done before, and I don't think it really worked. But I love the idea of Friends of Pacific View as maybe a scholarship program. I think the money we're talking about at $1.2 million, we're looking to bring in a professional. I don't think we have it on staff. I think if we do it through a group, they're going to have the best intentions. They're going to be excited about it, but they're not going to have the motivation. If we bring in a professional who says, if I get $1 million, I get to keep $150,000. And I know it doesn't quite work that way, but that's the person who's going to get the job done. And so I think if we really look at this and we look at something like stadium rights or something similar to that, that's the way we get a big chunk of money. And I look at the $500,000 we put this in, and we go, man, every kid, instead of paying $100 to come here for free. That's the art city I want to see. That opportunity for kids. That's the sweet spot, right? How do we figure out how to do it? Or how do we take that $500,000 and invest it somewhere else? Invest it in sculptures, invest it in art projects around the city, invest it in the community center, or invest it in even newer equipment, because some of this equipment we talked about, this is a 40, 50-year-old building. We're going to spend $50,000 a year on things that break eventually, or just the rate that technology outdates itself when you have to repeat stuff. So we're going to be putting money into this, and let's figure out a way to make sure that we're doing that without having to increase the cost. So I love where we're going with this. I hope those ideas help everybody with the thought. I appreciate the city manager chiming in, and I'm going to rest. Thank you.
Okay, I'll hop in here. I think I've heard a lot of good input, challenges to the Arts Commission to come back with the vision, and then I also have heard individual, like, look at how we can get the occupancy, what would it take to change that, the use matrix could go hand in hand with the vision. The couple things we haven't talked about tonight, they're in the report, and that is the difference between staff members, teaching, and contractors. And I, for one, would be very much for leveling that playing field. I quite frankly don't see much difference between a part-time staff member and a contractor. Can I convert contractors on the same terms? And it looks like right now we've got completely radically different requirements for one versus the other. So you don't have to answer it tonight. This is something to come back with. And I'm looking for staff to go back and tell us what can be done to make it easier to hire those contractors, even if they come in as part-time staff members, so that the two groups are on level playing field and they don't feel like they have to provide so much in the way of insurance and costs. And maybe we bundle it, I don't know. The last one, I think you had it in the report, the electricity for the kiln. $40,000, so we're headed towards budget time. The goal setting starts in February. We have draft budgets in April, May, and we adopt in June. That is the perfect place for those kind of things. So as you're coming up with ideas, Arts Commission, we need to live by a budget. Unfortunately, that's a practical nature of our job. So we need to get those ideas into the budget, and included in that will be the operational needs in the next year, the next fiscal year for this. So that concludes my remarks. Again, I really enjoyed the discussion, the report. I think this is a great collaborative process, and let's keep moving it forward. And I'd like to see a similar report in 1 year and 2 years and probably 3 years as we continue up that curve of popularity and growing and keep taking out the obstacles. So with that, Deputy Mayor Lyons.
It looks like I'll wrap this up here at the end. There's just 2 points I want to make after hearing my colleagues and the information I've already shared about what I hope we can bring back. I can't let it go without following up on the comment Councilmember Schaefer made about programming the outdoor space. The outdoor space is an asset to us too. It's space people can gather, and we could look at it from the perspective of what would we need to do to create multiple uses outdoors. You know, we don't want to park. We could provide parking spaces, but it doesn't need to always be parking spaces. It could be booths, like for a farmer's market, or it could be gathering for a community gathering, or it could be a small performance. There's so much that can be done outside, and right now it's not activated, and it's not part of our programming. And I know back when EACEA, for those who remember back in those days, the outdoor space was designed for activities and for gathering spaces. So it's an example of what can be done. But we weren't able to afford that. We improved the building, and we weren't able to also improve the outdoor area so far. But that is something to consider, and I would support it if my colleagues are also supporting it. And the other thing is we have some benefits from the fire station being present on the property, and one of them is that we have a new electric service. Is that big enough to feed the kiln? Not yet?
It's more that the service needs to be upgraded, so there are more circuits. So it's not quite the same.
Okay, all right. Good, thanks.
Water definitely was helped, so we have more capacity.
Oh, okay.
That was huge.
That's a detail. I can handle that offline, but thanks for that. Okay, thank you.
Okay, with that, I think we are adjourned, and we will be back here. How many minutes can we do it in? 10, 5, 4? What do you need, 10? Okay, we'll start at 10 after sharp. On the real clock.
Reading about what's happening in